Okay, good evening, everyone. Council just met in closed session. I will now look to the Deputy Clerk to provide a report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council met in closed session pursuant to Municipal Act exemptions and received an update regarding a potential litigation matter as well as an agreement matter, and additionally adopted previous closed session minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now ask everyone to please stand for the national anthem. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples, acknowledging the One Bowl and Spoon Treaty. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, please note that these meeting proceedings are being broadcast live, recorded, and made available through the Township website and youtube.com. Our next regular meeting of council is Tuesday, February 4th at 6:30 p.m. Are there any announcements or remarks from members of council? Seeing none, we're going to move into the adoption of previous council minutes. Are there any comments, corrections for the draft minutes listed on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, I have a motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held December 3rd, 2024 be adopted as circulated. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Wainfleet, Councillor McCullen, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. We have no public meetings this evening. We also have no delegations this evening. We have nothing on the consent agenda this evening, so we're going to move right into staff reports. Going to move into ASR 001-2025, respecting the review of council's correspondence policy. Ms. Christina, could you please provide a brief overview of your report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to all of council, this report intends to highlight the significant increase in the amount of correspondence that we've been receiving year over year, and is recommending a minor policy amendment just to address duplication issues and streamline the council information packages that are circulated each week. I'd be happy to take any questions or feedback.
Thank you. So I have a motion that the administrative staff report ASR 1-2025 respecting the review of council's correspondence policy be received, and that the amended policy attached as Appendix A be adopted. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor McClellan, Councillor Anderson, any discussion? Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, thank you. I'd just like to make a statement. I'm sort of pleased to see the fact that there's 500 and some odd correspondences in the aggregate year over year. For me, that indicates, maybe it's just for me that indicates that into the midterm of new elected councils, that a lot of municipal councils are just getting themselves in gear and getting on their feet, and are doing a lot more resolutions, etc. When you get comfortable. We're not particularly a council that does a lot of those, but it doesn't surprise me that given a whole cacophony of what's going on in the world, that municipalities are much more verbal and much more correspondence within the municipal field. And then the only opinion that I'd like to express is I have a concern that because it's well known that I'm very much like fiscal and sort of numbers and money information, and I really don't want to miss any sort of totality of how many municipalities are concerned about the same sort of fiscal issue. I think the one that's on the table this evening is about asking provincial and federal people to look at transfer of funding. And so hopefully more municipalities that take that course, there may or may not be sort of a refunding thought at upper government. So I'm concerned that whether they're repetitive or not, that we're missing sort of the insight about sort of the accumulative concern that 400 and some odd municipalities have in common. So I don't know if that's what would happen, or if we would ask for some sort of midterm summary of or how we would be sure to catch that kind of information. Does that make any sense, Amber?
Yes, absolutely. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Anderson and all of council. I was speaking with another clerk at a small municipality somewhere in Ontario outside of the region who advised they were going to embark on a similar practice, but would be maintaining a spreadsheet of all correspondence received. So we could do something similar here, and council would still have that data accessible. If so desired, it could be pulled.
So if I might continue through you, Mayor, while I have the floor. So would we have a triggering mechanism where we found out that this coming year in March, 20 municipalities were interested in a certain item, and then by July, 100 municipalities were interested in the same item? But if we're not duplicating, how would I as a councillor know that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if you wanted to set a threshold, at a certain number that triggers an alert to council that a particular subject matter has become of interest across the province, we could certainly do something like that.
And if I'll just continue, and then I'll give my floor up. But my issue is just with fiscal awareness of what municipalities are thinking as a whole. If people are complaining about things that are not relevant here, never would be relevant, fine. But I'm more interested in the sort of general fiscal legislative issues that all of us in townships and counties are worried about. That's all. Thank you.
Councilman McClellan, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have to agree with Councilor Anderson. I look at it, and sometimes I read them, and there's 4 municipalities to start out. I think one of the ones that comes to mind is the graveyards and trying to get funding for it because they're being abandoned. Next time I look at it, there's 60. Well, I thought it was a good idea when there was 4 or 5. But when there's 60, I think we should be jumping on the bandwagon and doing it. So I don't know where the magic number is. Like you said, do we put a trigger number or something? But, there was that. They're asking about getting some of the tax shared around now. I agree. When you first read it, it sounds like a good idea, but maybe it won't catch on. So I don't want to say, yeah, let's start sending letters out. But when you see that it is catching on, maybe we should be going. So I don't know where that threshold is to get you something to say, is it 50 municipalities, then we do it. Like, I don't know where that number is. Maybe we can come up with one tonight. Is it, 45, because that's 10% of the, right? I don't know.
Councilor Anderson?
If I may continue, I'm just wondering, of the 454 correspondences year over year, do you happen to have, and I probably should have preemptively asked you this before the meeting, do you have any idea of the 546 or whatever it does, I don't have it in front of me, how many of those we agreed to and documented a resolution on behalf of that agreement ourselves?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Anderson and all of council, unfortunately, no, I don't. I can certainly pull that information and share that with council following tonight's meeting, but off the top of my head, I do not. But we do have a record of all resolutions that we have sent out, so it's certainly obtainable.
Councillor Van Vliet, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was just wondering, could we maybe, like, in the top corner of a correspondence, like it's like the 24th, just like it's number 24 on this issue, if you put a 24 or a 50 or whatever number we're going to pick, so that we're not reading 50 of them, right? So we know like 50 of them have come through in the last week, and it's going to go into our CIP. Just put a number there, and then we'll know, and then we're not reading 50 of them or what have you. Would that work?
Certainly, we can do whatever, I mean, the purpose of this is to make it streamlined for council, so the other option is to just receive the report for information and make no changes to the policy, but if you want to implement an additional numbering system for any repeat items, we can certainly do that. I'm open to council's direction.
I like the number, the option of putting a number on it, because I will start to read them and go, wait, I've already read this one, and I've read this one. So I like that, and I don't know what a common number would be. I think, like, for us, maybe, like, I think if we're getting 20 correspondence on the same subject, then we need to look at it, personally. But that's up to suggestion.
Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
I think if we looked at this just strictly from a mathematical point of view, I think the 540 some would probably average out to, and Amber, you'd know this better than myself, would average out around possibly 25 coming forward in every weekly correspondence?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, pardon me, it really is peaks and valleys. And if there is a week where, for example, Remembrance Day fell on a circulation day and it was a stat holiday, there would be no circulation, so it's almost double then the following week. But there really is, there's certainly been some council information packages that have probably had only 4 or 5 total pieces included. It just depends on what's happening across the province.
Any other discussion? I was looking this way, but going back and forth. Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
Well, just in final summary, I actually enjoy reading what some little township 450,000 miles up north is concerned about. Like, I find that interesting, what's going on in Red Lake and Blue Lake and White Lake. So I'm not opposed to reading all the kind of correspondence that we get, just in summary. Did you hear that, Brian?
I apologize, I was asking a question.
No, that's okay. I just said I'm not opposed to reading what correspondence Red Lake and Blue Lake and Purple Lake are all concerned about. Like, I actually enjoy the correspondence package. Some of it you just go tick, 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 but other, as you probably all well know, I've actually looked up some of these townships and actually looked up their members, their council status, and their budgets and stuff. I get interested in that sort of thing, but that's just me. But no, I don't mind the amount of correspondence. As long as it's not an administrative problem in the sense of workload, because then that's a whole other issue about what I like to get and receive. And, if there's any sort of overriding burden for admin, that's all.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So no, it's not a burden. It's a really easy thing to copy and paste generally. So if I understand correctly, is it council's wish that we just receive this report, leave the policy the same as it is, but we will start numbering the duplicates, and that doesn't need to go into the policy. That can just be our standard practice.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Thank you.
Councilor McCullen, you still want to?
I'm good.
No? All right. So we're just going to amend the motion to receive for information. Is there any other discussion before I call a question? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Okay, moving into planning staff reports, PSR 1/2025, respecting the zoning bylaw amendment, file Z04-2024W 33684 Cider Road, Wainfleet. Ms. Ivins, can you please provide a brief overview of your report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to all of council. So this report provides a review of the applicable planning policies as it relates to the zoning bylaw amendment for 33684 Cider Road. The application proposes a site-specific agricultural A2-81 zone to permit the conversion of an existing barn to a seasonal wedding venue and to establish maximum floor area and parking requirements for the proposed uses on the subject property. It's my opinion that the amendment meets the applicable provincial, regional, and township planning policies for on-farm diversified uses, and I've recommended that the amendment be adopted. The implementing bylaw is on the agenda this evening as bylaw 001-2025. I'm available for any questions, should council have any.
Thank you. So I have a motion that planning staff report PSR 1/2025 be received and that zoning bylaw amendment number Z04-2024W for the lands known municipally as 33684 Cider Road be approved for the reasons outlined in this report, and that the application be deemed to be consistent with the provincial planning statement or 2024 and conform with the Niagara official plan and Township of Wainfleet official plan, and that the zoning bylaw amendment attached as Appendix C be adopted. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Van Fleet and Councillor McClellan, any discussion? Councillor Van Fleet, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the report, Sarah. I just have one question. It's probably not a question, it's more of a statement. Is there 150 parking lots? Did I read that or was I wrong? Parking spots, not parking lots.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, I will just have to pull that up. In the specific like wording in the bylaw, the 150 sets a maximum amount of attendees in the venue. So that's where the 150 comes from. I will have to pull up what their parking calculation is.
Okay, I'm only asking because it just seems odd that we can have this many cars at a venue, but we can only have like 1.5 in a subdivision. That's all.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, so the commercial rates are usually a little bit more extensive than residential. So for a single detached dwelling, typically we require 2. For accessory dwelling units, it's usually 1 or 1.5. But commercial uses, such as like the wedding venue and the workshops that they're proposing, is a different calculation for parking rates. So they're usually much higher than the residential rates that are used for calculating.
Okay. He's answering my questions for me.
Oh, yeah, I was just pulling up the site plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilor McClellan, go ahead.
You, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the report, Sarah. Just when you blow this up, so the printing all goes away, but it looks like if you're looking at the picture left of the building, that's a septic system, and then there's 2 washrooms there. Is that what that is?
So the septic system is to the south of the wedding venue and to the left of the agricultural building. And then immediately to the right of the wedding venue, there's the 2 accessible parking spots. So that's probably what you're seeing on the site plan.
Okay, again, I can't read it off of this. It's just it's too small to read the way it is, and when you blow it up, it just gets distorted. But no, my only thing was is there enough washrooms for the amount of people, right? So.
Yeah, so that was vetted through kind of the pre-consultation process. Obviously, a full detailed review still needs to occur when they come in for their building permit application. Yeah. But they did propose a design based on kind of minimum washroom requirements under the building code.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor. Sarah, I believe that the Accessibility of Ontario Disability Act is coming to fruition in 2025. So, and I'm with John, like you blow it up, you can't, I don't know whether it's a dot, a tree, or what it is, but they're supplying accessible parking, correct?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. There's 2 spots.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can see it.
Any other discussion?
Handicap.
Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Okay, moving on to Public Works staff reports. PWSR 001-2025, respecting the bridge conditional survey. Mr. Nan, can you please provide a brief overview of your report?
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. Before you is the first staff report of 2025. During budget deliberations, as council remembers, in the 2025 capital portion, we approved some bridge engineering for several bridges in the Township of Wainfleet. The Dixie Road Bridge has already been recommended for complete replacement, and the Bullion Bridge requires some minor rehabilitations. The Melawani and Church Street Bridges, however, were identified for refurbishments. To determine the extent of deterioration on Melawani and Church Street Bridges, asphalt core samples, concrete core samples, and corrosion protection surveys are required to complete the engineering work. Following the conditional surveys, we will be reviewing the repair options for each bridge component and review the practical repair details for each bridge. Where there are various options for repair, we will be reviewing the benefits and drawbacks of each of these options to ensure that the proposed rehabilitation aligns with the township's long-term planning and budgets. Once a determination is made, staff will be preparing a second RFP for the engineering design plans and preparation of contract documents for the Melawani Bridge, Dixie Road Bridge, and the Church Street Bridge. The Bullion Bridge has not been included in this, and it was required minor engineering for the coating of the structural steel, and that will be performed separately, and the structural steel construction will be tendered later this year as well. I'm available for any questions at this time.
Thank you. So I have a motion that the Public Works Staff Report, PWSR 1-2025, respecting the bridge conditional survey be received, and that council directs staff to engage the services for the completion of the bridge conditional survey to Ellis Engineering. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor McClellan, Councilor Anderson, any discussion? Councilor McClellan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So Ellis was the only bidder. It is what it is. They're a good company. We're not worried about. How quick can they get it done? How quick can you get the next one? And how soon can we get this out to tender? Because there's not a lot of work right now. We're going to get better prices the faster this hits the street.
Through your worship to Councilor McClellan, the requirements of this RFP requires them to have this survey completed and all the results and options available by April. So by April, the end of April and beginning of May, we'll have the second RFP for the engineering of all the plans. And then the work for Bullion Bridge is ongoing already. They've already started that one. But as far as the construction on these three bridges, that wasn't included in the budget this year. That'll be for next year's budget, but by the time we prepare budgets for next year, we'll have all the results back in, the designs, and everything be ready to go.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, moving into the review of correspondence. We have 4 items of correspondence on the agenda for consideration this evening. Correspondence item C564, respecting the Crime Stoppers proclamation request. Does any member of council wish to make a motion? Councilor McCollum. All right, have a seconder? Councilor Van Fleet. Is the motion to accept the proclamation? Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So the motion will be to proclaim, where is it? Okay. So the motion will be that the correspondence item be supported. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
That's what I thought you would.
Opposed? And that is carried.
I was reading something else and I got sidetracked. Sorry.
Okay, number 2, correspondence item C565, respecting request for fence bylaw exemption. I'd like to ask Ms. Earl to provide comments on this request.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Through the last review of the fence bylaw update with the previous council, staff were directed to remove the exemption option section. This is because the bylaw is to apply to all properties throughout the township. While understanding the undue hardships being suffered by the landowner, council should note that allowing a single exemption may create a new precedent, may not alleviate the behavior that we're trying to curtail, as the intention or essentially our spirit of our bylaws are to gain voluntary compliance, and they're really not meant to be used as a means to address civil matters. Any new decisions or directions may influence any ongoing enforcement matters with respect to those that are under the fence bylaw currently. So while it is possible to amend the bylaw by means of a special exemption addition, we can do that through a new schedule to the bylaw. Staff would look to council for their direction on this correspondence. Thank you.
Okay. Does any member of council wish to make a motion? Councilor McClellan.
No, I'd just like to, this is a civil matter. This isn't a bylaw matter. This is not for us to change anything as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so no member wishes to make a motion, then this is defeated. Okay. Okay, we're going to move into correspondence item C018, respecting the proclamation request for Christian Heritage Month. Further to our legal advice council has received, and in an effort to meet our duty to remain religious neutrality, at this time we're going to receive C018 for information. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor McClellan? Councilor Anderson, any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, item D, correspondence item C021, respecting the Wainfleet Historical Society plaque request. Does a member of council wish to make a motion? Councilor Anderson.
I'd like to make the motion that council receives and supports correspondence 021 from our Wainfleet Historical Society, and that we put up and agree to have assistance to them to put up these two plaques.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder? Councilor Van Vliet, any discussion? Councilor McClellan, go ahead.
So they say they're going to get a couple of plaques made up. These are the bronze plaques that they put on. Yeah, that's what they're getting. I'm fine with it. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, moving into bylaws. Bylaw number 001, 2025, pertaining to the planning staff report considered earlier this evening. I have a motion that that bylaw number 001, 2025, being a bylaw pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, to amend zoning bylaw number 34, 2014 of the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet with respect to those lands forming Concession 3, Part Lot 36, RP 59R 7513, Part 1 in the Township of Wainfleet and known municipally as 33684 Cider Road, be read and passed this 14th day of January 2025. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor McClellan and Councilor Van Vliet, any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, there are no notices of motion this evening. We have no further items for closed session this evening. So I now have a bylaw or a motion that bylaw number 2, 2025, being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the actions of the council at its regular meeting of council held January 14th, 2025, be read and passed this 14th day of January 2025. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor McClellan, Councilor Van Vliet, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. There being no further business, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.